All right, so today we're going to be talking about Nilou and why she is worth it slash why is she not worth it. Today we're going to be talking about is she worth it in 3.6 with the new version coming out, which she's going to be coming out very soon. So by the time you're watching this video, it's probably going to be less than a couple hours away from Nilou coming out. But this is for those who want to know about Nilou, see if she's worth it. She's good enough in the meta right now to be able to clear most of the content that's in the game. But let's go ahead and start talking about Nilou in this video. So Nilou is the absolute definition of no thoughts, head empty. She is by far one of the easiest characters to play, and her teams are one of the easiest to play as well, with it being very strong in AoE situations. Now Nilou by herself, she isn't hard to build by herself. She is very simple, very easy to do. She is more of a team player slash she needs to be built with a really good team to be able to do a lot of damage. Nilou, for her talents, we're gonna have to level up two things. One thing necessarily, but two things to make things really easy. Her normal attack isn't going to really be used unless you want to run a Nilou vape team. Now this does get modified when you have her skill active, but we'll be talking about that in a quick second. But the normal attack, for the most part, you don't really need to level this up at all. There's not really much you can do with it. Not really that I guess you could say hits any type of hard, but the real meat of her kit comes from her skill and also comes from her ult. For her skill, we're going to be using two different versions of the skill. One's the attack version and one's the skill version. For the skill version, you're going to be getting a big ring of, I guess you could say water around you, and this water is going to be pulsing every 0.5 seconds, leading you to make a bunch of dendro cores when there are a lot of dendro, I guess say, applied to other characters. Now, if you don't run the skill version that makes the ring around you, you can also run the normal attack version, and this makes her do sword slashes of hydro and also does a really big wave of hydro for you to use against enemies. Now a lot of people use this skill for the attack for vape Nilou, which isn't her best, I guess you could say, but it is possible to use her as that part of a team. But her main kit is the Bountiful Core slash dendro type team. Now for ult, it's just going to be a big splash of hydro damage that is going to be based on her max HP. And this is why max HP is going to be very important in a quick second when I explain to you most of her kit, because a lot of her kit really does come from her passives rather than her skill and her burst, because her skill just gives you the means to be able to apply the hydro, and then the burst allows you to add more hydro and also do a good bit damage based on your max HP. But for the most part, you want to level up your skill, then your burst, and then if you want to, the normal attack. But let's go ahead and start talking about the very important parts of her kit, which are the passive. Core of Density Petals, you're only going to be able to use Dendro or Hydro characters on a team. Anytime you put any other element besides Dendro or Hydro, doesn't matter how many of each, it just has to be those two. They will be able to proc this passive. If you put anybody else that's not Dendro or Hydro, this passive will turn off, I guess you could say, when it comes to using Nilou. So when using Nilou, you're able to get the super version of the dendro cores, which are called Bountiful Cores, and these do heightened AoE, heightened damage, and I guess you could say reduced time to actually explode. So this is really good, and this is basically the bulk of her kit. These do hit hard, so you are going to want to heal her for the most part when it comes to Nilou, because these Bountiful Cores are going to hurt hard, and you could possibly get your teammates to take a lot of damage from this. So for the most part, Dendro and Hydro make a super version of the Dendro core called a Bountiful Core, and that is this passive. And then her second passive is for every 1,000 points above 30,000, you will end up getting more damage for your Bountiful Cores. Now you do want to be able to max out this passive. I'm not 100% sure what the highest max HP is. I think it's around 70 to 60k if I'm not wrong, HP, and we'll be talking about how we can achieve that in a quick second. But for the most part, this is your main source of damage. You want to make sure that you stack as much HP as you possibly can when it comes to rocking Nilou. So for the most part, her skills aren't really hard to talk about because Nilou by herself is very simple, very easy. The harder part is building the team around her, which actually is the harder part or the bulk of her kits, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead and talk about her weapons. For the most part, her weapons don't matter because the key of Caution Suit, which is her signature, is going to be your absolute best HP percentage, main stat, which she needs. Like I said before, you want to max out as much HP as you possibly can. The passive also gives another 20%. And then you're also able to give Elemental Mastery to nearby party members as well based on your max HP. So this helps a lot. You do want to have Elemental Mastery on some of your other characters, so when they proc the Bountiful Cores, they take over the EM, and then once they get the EM, they're able to make those Bountiful Cores hit for much more. When it comes to Nilu's weapon, there isn't a lot of, I guess you could say, options because there's not a lot of HP percentage swords in this game. So for the most part, it really does not matter. And I'm sorry I have like 50,000 of the same sword, I just don't delete them. For the most part, although since I can't find a actual HP percentage sword at the moment, you are not going to need any type of actual sword to make her do damage, because for the most part she just needs the HP percentage. But if you do want to have another sword that actually does this, you are going to want to run EM. Yeah, some people run Nilu dual blades, so this is a thing. As I said before, you basically don't need to put any real crazy weapon on Nilu. The only ones that actually do work on her, because it does involve her passives and what she actually wants to be built upon. The Key of Caution 2 helps with the HP percentage. The Primordial J Cutter gives HP percentage as well, so if you have this, is possible to put on. But other than that, you can kind of stack on Energy Recharge, Elemental Mastery. Elemental Mastery is preferred because it will help with the Dendro core making and Dendro core damage. This will help a little bit. Plus this Zephos Moonlight also gives energy recharge, which is really good. If not, you can go for energy recharge type weapons so that you're able to use, you know, your burst more, which applies more hydro, multiple instances of hydro. So yeah, this is really good to have on. She doesn't really have a lot of options when it comes to her best absolute swords, but for the most part the weapon does not matter because she doesn't need to do the damage because her other teammates will do it for her. For her artifacts, there aren't really any crazy 4-piece sets for Nilu at the current moment in Genshin. Tenacity Millilith is going to be one of the best 2-piece sets for Nilu because it does the HP increase by 20%, and Gilded Dreams gives increased elemental mastery by 80. Now this could be replaced by a bunch of other sets for the Gilded Dreams, but with the new update that is coming out, we are going to be getting a second HP increase by 20%. So if you really want the best absolute Nilu build, you probably want to go for HP increase by 20% on both the Tenacity Millilith set and the brand new Glow set. I think that's the name of it, for the other HP 20%. So this will help a lot. Other than that, like I said before, you do want to stack on straight HP. So for your flower and your feather, you want to have that as much HP percentage as you possibly can, and also be able to stack on some elemental mastery, energy recharge if you can in the substats. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Sands, Goblet, and Circlet are all going to be HP percentage. Try to fit as much energy recharge, as much elemental mastery in there. If you could put some crit damage in there, I guess that's okay too, because you can make her hits hit a little bit harder, but that's really not necessary. And yes, this piece I have on here is absolutely disgusting. But other than that, let's get to her constellations. Her constellations, in my honest opinion, I do think you can skip a good majority of them. Because for the most part she is really good by herself, and a lot of the, I guess you could say, actual big portion of her kit is based on her other teammates rather than herself. Now her constellations do help with damage and stuff like that, and extending certain durations of some stuff, which helps a lot in certain situations, get your rotations going up a little bit smoother. But other than that, that's pretty much not it, and I don't think it's 100% worth that. I think she's been absolutely amazing at C0. Once I've been using her, I use her every abyss, so I think it's worth noting that constellations aren't really needed for Nilu. For her, I guess you could say her skill is going to have a higher damage on her attack portion and a higher duration on her skill portion with the, the ring with the water around it. C2 is going to be your best value, I guess you could say, for constellations. When you do hydro damage with her, her effect open, it does hydro res by decreased by 35%. If you do Bountiful Core stuff, Dendro res will be decreased by 35%. So it helps a lot when it comes to running your Nilu team if you have C2. C3 is going to be her burst. C4 is going to be her skill, gives her elemental energy, and also your damage from it as well will be increased by 50%. So it'll help a little bit with keeping her burst up and doing a quite little bit of damage. C5 is her skill being up by +3, and then C6 turns her into a main DPS basically. For every 1000 points of max HP, you will get crit and crit damage. This can go up to 30% and 60%, so that's really nice to know. But other than that, constellations aren't really needed for Nilu, so this is something you could probably skip over. Now the main part of Nilu that we want to talk about is her teams. Now for the most part, Nilu and her bulk of her kit is going to depend on her teams, and a lot of the things that come with Nilu are really reliant on what characters you use. Now for the most part, if you have Nahida, you are going to absolutely love to get Nilu, because this makes Nilu so fun to play, so easy to play, absolutely amazing in the world. It's absolutely like a big quality of life type thing when you have Nahida, because of that non-restrictive, always applied Dendro that she can be put on with Nahida. So Nahida is really one of Nilu's best partners for you to have, plus the elemental mastery buff, which is going to help out a lot. If you don't have Nahida, there are a bunch of others, I guess you could say, units that you can use. Yao is a really good option for your healing and also applying Dendro. You have Kolai as well. She is really good, one of the best when it comes to one of Nilu's team, especially if you have like sacrificial bow and stuff like that. I haven't got mine built, so I'm not using her at the current moment. You can use I'll hate them and stuff like that because Nilu will not be on field, so you can always use other characters to get that Dendro applied. Other characters that you want to use when it comes to Nilou is you kind of hopefully have Kokomi for this team. Kokomi is the absolute GOAT for this team as well because she provides healing and she's also the one proccing the Dendro cores to explode. So for the most part, if you have Kokomi, you want to rock her in Elemental Mastery. And for the most part, whenever you have a character that needs to proc the Bountiful Cores, and for the most part Nilou isn't usually the one doing it, you do want to have as much Elemental Mastery on your teammates, especially the ones that are proccing the Dendro cores like Kokomi. There is some instances where Yao is going to be that person as well. But for the most part, you do want to stack as much EM as possible on these characters. And when you do have EM on these characters, this is where you can have different, I guess you could say, artifacts that you can put on them. Like I said, Kokomi is one of them that is going to be using, being the one proccing the thing. So you do want to have Flower of Paradise Lost is a really good one to have on her because it helps with Bloom and the Dendro core explosions by a good bit, and it also increases your Elemental Mastery. If you don't have a Flower of Paradise Lost set, you can also use Gilded Dreams because this helps as well when it comes to getting Elemental Mastery, helping her proc those Dendro cores and make them explode more. And you do also want to have somebody with Deepwood Memories as well. Yes, there are a lot of components to having Nilou on your team or having her on your account because there's just so many things that you need to take account of to help her buff that Dendro core damage. Like I said, Nilou is going to want that HP percentage artifacts. You're going to want somebody with Deepwood Memories. If you have Nahida, that'd be the best option. Dendro damage bonus, and then you have Dendro res shred, which of 30%, so this is going to help the Bountiful Cores that Nilou makes. And then you're going to want somebody with like Gilded Dreams or Paradise Lost to be able to increase the bloom damage or increase the elemental mastery that they have to make the Bountiful Cores hit more. And then whoever you have in your last slot, you can build them as a healer like Yao, or you can have them in there like Kolai with energy recharge. There's a lot of different, I guess you could say, avenues you can run with this team. You can run triple Hydro, one Dendro. You can rock triple Dendro with one Hydro. You can use Yelan and Xingqiu as well if you want to have somebody like Nahida on field. And wow, she is really wavy down there. But you can basically have a lot of different characters in Hydro and Dendro that are going to help out with this team. You're not basically restricted to just these 4 characters that I have on the team. You have Yao, Xingqiu, Yelan, I'll hate them, Nahida. You have Kolai, Tainari. There's a lot of different avenues and a lot of different options you can use for these teams. She's very, very strong in a lot of floors on the Spiral Abyss with a lot of enemies, which for the most part there are a good amount of floors that have that. She excels in AoE damage for the most part. The more enemies that they are, the more damage that you're going to be doing. But when it comes to single target damage, you are going to be doing a little bit less because there are going to be less Dendro cores that you're going to be making in the process of doing so. So remember to make sure that you do want to put her on the spot that has more characters in it. That way you're able to increase the AoE and do more damage based on how many characters are in there. Because if you do it with single target, it is possible to kill bosses in a timely manner, of course. But she thrives off of AoE situations. But for the most part, that's pretty much for Nilou. There's a lot you have to keep account of when it comes to playing with Nilou, because you want to have the team for it. You want to make sure you're buffing the right things and doing the right stuff to make the Bountiful Cores hit a lot more. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one, and peace.